Hi, I'm Felita Price with the Kingdom Commission Ministries, and this is a grace moment. What do you do when you face an obstacle? When you're standing between your pain and a promise of God? Well, there's a story in the Old Testament about God's people. God had promised to bring his children out of the land of Egypt, and he had promised them a future. He said, I'm going to give you a land that flows with milk and honey. It was going to be a place where they could establish their identity as a nation and where they could prosper as a people. So as they were in the wilderness, they were poised on the brink of going into the promised land. God sent spies, one from each tribe of Israel, to go and spy out the land. It was a military reconnaissance, so to speak. God wanted them to see what the land was like, the position of the enemy, but he also wanted them to see all the greatness that the land had to offer. And so the children of Israel sent the spies, and they went into the land of Egypt, the promised land, and this is what they said. He said, we went into the land that you sent us, and it does flow with milk and honey. Here it is. They presented Moses with grapes so large that 2 men had to carry it. But then they said, but the people who live there are powerful, and the cities are fortified and very large. In other words, poised on the brink of this extraordinary life, already having tasted the goodness of the land, grapes so large that 2 men had to carry them, yet faced with such a possibility of the life that God wanted to give them, the people refused to believe that they could possess it. Why? Because there was an obstacle between them and their promise. There were giants in the land. Giants. Now, it couldn't just be regular-sized people. It had to be huge people. Isn't that the way our challenges can seem sometimes? They're so big, it seems sometimes, that we get so focused on our challenges that we forget about God. And that's exactly what the children of Israel did. They failed to realize, because they were now faced with the hardship, they were faced with the potential pain, they lost sight of the prize. And they failed to realize that for the people whose God is the Almighty, victory is on the other side of the obstacle. They failed to realize that for people, the people of God with God on our side, we always win. And this means that joy is on the other side of sorrow, and life is on the other side of death. When Numbers 14 says that instead of believing, they grumbled and complained, and they wanted to return to Egypt. In the desert, with the promise before them and the bondage behind them, they chose the bondage. They preferred to remain stuck, slaves, no rights, no freedom, no joy, rather than stand on the promises of God and fight for all that God had intended for them. As we face our giants today, let's remember that God is on our side, and there is nothing too hard for him. Let's remember that God has promised us the victory, and he is well able to deliver. Let's remember that from the struggle comes strength, and that victory is on the other side of the obstacle. This is Felita Price with the Kingdom Commission Ministries, and this has been a grace moment. God bless.